Hi, I'm Jill. I'm married to Dan. I have 2 adult kids, Joseph, who's 25, and Aaron, who's 21.
Not too long ago, I was picking black-eyed peas and discovered that some of what I was picking was not black-eyed peas at all. They were creamer peas. When ordering seed, we asked for black eyes, but something must have gotten mixed up. Even the best seed suppliers can't guarantee 100% purity. And it's like that in life too. Sometimes you think you are planting one thing, but as time passes and you reap what you've sown, you find that it's not at all what you thought it would be. Other times, when you are authentic and true, you reap exactly what you planted, and it's good. In Matthew 7:16 through 18, Jesus said, "Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit." Today, I don't want to write about bad seed. We have all made mistakes in life and have lived with the consequences. I want to write about good seed. No matter what has happened in the past, you always have today to live for purpose. These verses cause me to ask, what am I doing that bears good fruit? Growing up in a religious home, I was very cognizant of doing good deeds. In fact, I hoped I could earn my salvation by being good. When I learned that salvation was a gift of God, I was relieved and profoundly thankful. Yet, knowing this truth left me confused about works. How do they fit in? James 2:17 says, "Even so faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone." So faith is important because it's the reason for good works. Works are important because they demonstrate our faith. This question of faith and works brought me back to the peas. Only black eyes are black eyes. In the same way, people are what they consistently do. In John 4:34, Jesus said, "My meat is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work." What would it take for me, like Jesus, to do the will of the Father? Here's a few thoughts. First and foremost, if love is a verb, then it involves movement. This could be volunteering at church, visiting someone in a nursing home, lending a hand to a new mom, or just praying with a friend. No matter how awkward it feels, the first step is to reach out. You never know what you will find until you do. In fact, the joy is in the going. I found this to be true with delivering vegetables. It started with sharing some extra produce that God provided for us, and it has ended in getting to know some remarkable friends and having the privilege of sharing in their lives. This experience has been profoundly meaningful and energizing. The second step is to be consistent. What you do consistently is who you are. When Jesus said to love your neighbor as yourself, he didn't mean once. Rotate it. Buy a coffee for someone one day. Give a sincere compliment to someone else another day. Call a friend. Make caring for others a lifestyle. Wake up in the morning and ask God who you can bless that day. I met an elderly missionary once who told me this story. When she was a child, she wanted to do something for missions. She would gather things she knew missionaries needed, make boxes, and mail them. In time, she discovered a deep longing in herself not to just pack boxes, but to go. It was not an obligation, but a passion and a life calling. But God's calling on her life was developed through consistency. The third step is to rely on God. In John 15:15, Jesus said, "Without me you can do nothing." Nothing we do, in and of ourselves, can make a difference. No kindness, no gesture of friendship, no sacrifice for our fellow man, but what we do in Christ makes a difference. He partners with us when we obey him. And in this experience, this relationship, if we embrace it, it changes us. Luke 6:38 says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. When you give, you receive." It's not why we give. It's just what the Bible has promised will happen. And it certainly beats being depressed or turning inward, which is what happens if I focus only on me. And so today, I encourage you to never lose the gratitude of your salvation, but to know that along with it comes the responsibility of being like Christ. That's what our covenant with Him means. That's our purpose, living as He did, doing what He commanded, loving others as ourselves. Back when I was picking those peas, they all looked alike, but only some were true and authentic black-eyed peas. For me, being authentic means doing the right thing when no one is looking, reaching out, being consistent, relying on His grace, and giving Him the glory. Then, on the day of harvest, we will not be ashamed, but we will hear Him call us faithful. Matthew 25:23 tells us the words we hope to hear from Jesus. "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness."
So Jill, I liked your blog. It made me think of one thing. If you had one or two statements of the most to make in your life to people of what life was about, what would they be?
I think the first thing is to realize that God really, truly loves us and has our best interest in heart. And sometimes I heard this from people growing up, "Oh, I only want the best for you," but it might not have been authentic. They might have just been wanting the best for them and trying to talk me into that. But Jesus is really, truly looking out for what's good for us. And then the second thing is that He really wants to know us. Like, as a child, I kind of wished I could know God, but I didn't know if that was possible. I didn't know if that's what He wanted. I didn't know really the way to do that. And when I came to have a relationship with God, I realized that it's something He wants, and like, who wouldn't want to have that back? And so those were the two things I would say.
Okay. So if we knew God was truly seeking our highest good, which is one uncomfortable definition of love, then what highest good is God seeking from us and for us?
I think He's always trying to show us something of Himself. And so sometimes we might fight it because we don't like it, and we don't like how things are going or what's happening in our lives, but He's always working in it to reveal some aspect of Himself, which is good for us to know.
Okay. What do you think you don't know about Christ?
What I don't know about Him is the things that I do that are inconsistent with Him. So if I think maybe that He's not going to be there for me on a day that I'm like entertaining doubt and not faith, or if I think that He's not seeking something good for me, and so I seek something for myself instead of seeking what He wants, then I don't actually believe Him, because I go in and out of my faith and trust in Him, and that's not necessarily good.
So, Jill, I know you come from a background religiously where God would be more feared than known, and that it was more important to love Him at a distance and love Him at close up. And, you know, when you say His yoke is easy, His burden is light, if the yoke were to know Him, really know Him, I mean, know Him means trust Him. If we don't trust Him, we don't know Him.
Yes.
Okay? Because then He's not good, as you said, at all, but evil. So if we know Him and trust Him, then what is the hurdle we have to overcome? Or what is the hurdle you think you have to overcome in order to be at peace with him. Lay down. The Lord is my shepherd. I see at peace this child being held in her mother's arms or her father's arms. And the child knows perfectly well that he can relax. He doesn't have to squirm. He doesn't scream or cry or be fearful because he feels the security of his father or his mother. So what do you think that is?
To me, that would be evidenced by peace, by not having doubt, because your true core belief is God is big enough, God is aware enough, God is leading in a good way, even if it's not something that you could see. Like Peter walking on the water was okay as long as he's looking at Jesus and not so good looking at the waves. And so it'd be evidenced by the peace of looking up instead of looking around.
So we all have to come to that point in our lives where we understand two things. One, in the deepest, darkest depth of ourself, we want to love God because we need love and because we need God.
Yes.
It's an integral part of the relationship. And the other thing is to realize that God is sufficient for everything we need. And we don't understand, I think of it very much. A child learns to eat with his hands at first, and that's very gratifying. To switch to a spoon is just absolutely terrifying. I don't want that stupid spoon. I can get it with my hand. Now, to envision someone 21 years old reaching over at a table of people grabbing a handful of potatoes, putting them in his mouth and going, this is good, we would go, oh my God, what happened to that kid? Why didn't he learn to eat with a spoon? Because we still think he's a kid. So we know that God has got a lot to teach us. But he's already said the basis of all his teaching is on the fact that he's enough. And he's enough for us. We're not going to overwhelm him. Okay?
Yes.
I know at times when I was a kid, my mother would just look at me and shake her head like, oh, Mike. And I'm like, yep, here I am. I'm still overwhelming. So, well, good. I think that is good. I think sometimes to take in our life our thoughts about what I think, because I think that really relates to people. I find very few people who quote me scriptures unless they really live those scriptures and love those scriptures and they know them. And sometimes I remember when I was, particularly with people when I was a chaplain at Parkland Hospital, sometimes if you tried to quote scripture, you just get turned off. In fact, you would get people angry at you because they were angry at God because of what they thought had happened, and so they were mad at God or whatever. But I still believe in the truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And I would quote those scriptures and take them out of the King James context, and I'd quote them in context of their lives. And it was amazing how they heard them out of that context. So I think that's true. Everything you said is true. Everything you said is true. It's just putting it into context and going, when I don't do this, I have to think, okay, where am I and where am I at? So, and maybe that's the road. Maybe we're still so dependent and we want to go independent. And I don't think he ever wants us totally dependent. Totally independent. Okay, thanks, Jill. Appreciate your time, hon.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining us for Around the Supper Table. At Sanctuary Family Farms, we want to be real. Whether that's through our blogs, daily verses, or even Nana's recipes, we want to share the messages that God has laid on each of our hearts. If you liked what you heard today or want to get in touch with us, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Sanctuary Family Farms or our website at www.sanctuaryfamilyfarms.com, where we share our recipes and blogs and sell farm fresh beef and pork. We can't wait for you to join us again for next week's episode.